Okay, we're ready to rock and roll. Here they are. Josh from Mozilla and Diego. Here you go.
Thanks. I tried to come up with like a logo for the VR web. That's my 5-minute attempt to like brand the VR web. It's pretty obvious, but yeah, sometimes obvious is good. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. What's that?
Mic near your
I'm
mouth.
I can't use the mic. It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like want to gesticulate. Oh, you want to record? Oh, okay. Yeah, no worries. Thanks, guys. So I'm Josh. I'm a UX designer at Mozilla. Diego is an engineer at Mozilla. And the two of us, plus Vlad, who is the co-creator of WebGL, are the nucleus of a new virtual reality effort at Mozilla. For folks who don't know about Mozilla or know a little bit, I mean, what we're fundamentally about is ensuring that the web is a thriving, awesome, powerful platform. So a couple months ago, we took a look at virtual reality, and our leadership took a look at it. People like Diego, myself, and Vlad, who are really kind of hardcore early adopters of this technology, took a look at it, and we really felt that, you know, if the web can do virtual reality, the web can do just about anything. Because virtual reality is uniquely demanding on hardware, it's uniquely demanding on performance, it's uniquely demanding on input. Like if we can nail this, you know, sky's the limit. So we're tackling VR because we're really excited about it, and because we want to push the web forward. So what we've done, last week we announced the first steps for the VR web. So actually, is anyone here a web developer at all? JavaScript, HTML, CSS, anyone ever made a website in GeoCities? Okay. So what we've done is, Vlad, who is the genius of the three of us, I think it's probably fair to say, he's released an experimental build of Firefox, and with this experimental build of Firefox, you can take a website, you can take a little bit of JavaScript in your content, and you can get stereoscopic rendering of that site, and you can get plug-in free communication of sensor data from an Oculus Rift to that content. So what it means in practicality is that you can go to a website like this. This is a lovely 3JS scene, and you can just hit a key on your keyboard here. And if you had an Oculus Rift plugged in, you would now be seeing this. Yeah, and I have to reload it because the screen resized here. Let's try that.
Yeah, with the projector.
Yeah, with the projector.
There
There you go. Oh,
it doesn't work with a projector.
Yeah. So what you get is plug-in free, just plug and play, hit a URL, load a site, and view it in virtual reality with the Oculus Rift. This is like just the first step. It's super experimental. For those of you who know our release pattern, we go nightly builds, which are really kind of experimental, then there's beta channel, and there's a release channel. This isn't even the nightly channel, that's going to come later. We've got a brand new API that we're talking with the Chrome team on the architecture of to ensure that all this stuff is interoperable between Chrome and Firefox. And this is just a really early release, but we really encourage anyone out there who's a web dev to just go, pick it up, take the examples that guys like myself and Diego and Vlad and the 3JS hackers are putting out there, which are actually really actively kind of growing up right now, and just kick the tires on them. You know, our put to you is we're going to build this together. There's a lot of private organizations who are looking to do a VR play. You know, Mozilla is an open source organization, and we really believe that the metaverse is really important. And maybe the way the metaverse gets built is by us. You know, we collectively do it. We file bugs. We just build the code as a community together. That's what I'd love to see happen. So the best thing you can do is take a look at these builds we're putting out there, take a look at the API, see if it works for you, see if it doesn't work for you, just give us the feedback, and just build cool stuff and hack. Just to give you a couple examples in the last couple of days alone. Actually, Diego, do you want to speak to this? You're kind of a perfect example of this, of a plugin that you've just built.
Oh yeah. So now we have an API in the browser to get like head tracking, head orientation, and do stereo rendering. And we are trying to fill the gaps to still lower the barrier of entry for people to develop VR content. So the thing that we are doing right now, we have a patch ready to be merged on 3JS, and I'm gonna show some code. To show how easy it is to develop content. I don't know if you are JavaScript developers, if you are 3JS developers, but it's so easy that I don't really care. So, so it's basically 4 lines of code. So you just import the plugin, you just initialize the plugin, you pass your renderer to the plugin, and you call enable VR mode. That's it. So you have a stereo rendering, and your camera is going to have the orientation of your head. That's it. And that's my minute of glory.
So what's nice is, man, like, I'm 90% designer, 10% developer, but working with a guy like Diego and with the talented developers out there making frameworks and libraries, it becomes really, really, really easy to stand up a virtual reality experience and then just mail it to someone, you know, send them a URL. The web's really never been more vibrant. There's never been more frameworks, more activity, more development happening than there is right now, especially in the JavaScript space. So I think if we combine the strength of the web as a platform with a couple basic VR enablers, we've got most of what we need to build the metaverse, you know, the so-called metaverse, or to kind of build the web of the VR future. So there's a couple of things we're doing right now. To give you an idea of where we're going next, over the next couple months, what we've done first is, you probably not read that, but this is from Vlad's blog post, which for anyone who wants more information, I would encourage you to go and find this and read this. I'll actually post a link into the SFVR meetup with the links to all this stuff after the meetup. But right now what we're doing for developers out there is we're rendering canvas to VR output devices. Where we want to go next is we want to extend the HTML tag for video to actually be able to handle 360-degree stereoscopic VR video. So for the filmmakers out there, it's just like you create content, you put it up there as video, and you can actually look around and step into that scene. Rendering HTML, so DOM plus CSS content. So if you're not a WebGL developer and you're more comfortable with declarative syntax, you can just create a VR scene using divs and CSS and separation of concerns like you're probably used to. And then this is really neat too, is actually mixing the two. So for example, you might have a bunch of divs which float in front of the user and that represents a heads-up display. And then the scene that you look onto through that heads-up display is actually made out of WebGL. So a mixture of CSS and WebGL within one shared depth buffer, which means that, you know, as a creature gets close to you, maybe even closer, like let's say a WebGL like monster gets closer to you than your HUD is, it'll actually occlude the HUD. That's never been possible before. So you're actually having CSS content and WebGL content within one shared scene, one seamless scene. So the user doesn't know the difference, but you as a web developer, you can kind of decide which technology works best for you and just build it using the technology that you're most comfortable with. And then again, receiving input and orientation from position sensors. So just low latency, high performance, and no plugin. It just works. Yeah, I think this is pretty informal, but where I'm really excited is that in the last couple of years, like I said, the web's never been more strong from a library and framework standpoint, but also from a creative coding standpoint. There's a lot of people in this room who are responsible for some of the stuff you've seen on GLSL Heroku, or Shader Toy, or 3JS. There's so much unbelievable creativity out there in the web scene. Now, if we combine that creativity with guys like visual effects artists and people from the games industry, and I would argue even architects and theaters, people, dancers, just creative minds. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but to me, VR is like this insane watering hole where all these different industries are suddenly intersecting and coming together, from mobile hardware to visual effects to games to UX, mobile, you name it. Input, obviously. Like it's really neat to get to work with people who I've always respected from afar and thought were geniuses, but never had a chance to kind of work with directly. I think if we just create some really easy VR enablers, you're going to see guys like the developers responsible for this be able to create some really mind-blowing VR websites. And the notion of what a website could be in a couple of years could be radically different. We're not talking about floating planes of content. We're talking about immersive, experiential, deeply emotional worlds. There's nothing to hold us back. It's up to our creativity at this point. So it's really exciting. And again, I'll put links up, but there's some really neat stuff already happening around this. Within like 48 hours, a gentleman posted a how to set up your first VR website, where he improved on our code by making a plugin, which Diego has now improved on further. So now we've got an arms race happening. People making it even easizer and easier. You've got this really. Oh, sorry.
I'm glad he did it because he put pressure on me.
Exactly.
Because I just want to beat him.
And I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to challenge both of you and get the guy in the middle egging you on to make it better. This is an Ella VR web player. This was works with a previous plugin called VRJS, which you maybe kind of know. If you're actually wondering, VRJS was an MP API plugin that enabled you to do a lot of what we're doing now in the browser by default. So we've kind of moved all the awesomeness of VRJS, and that guy deserves a lot of credit for a year ago getting out there and building that enabling web development to actually begin for the VR web. We're now moving that into the browser. So this is a web player for 360 VR video that's built with VRJS, but will work seamlessly with ours as well, with 4 lines of code that Diego mentioned. And then you got guys like Julian Shapiro working on libraries like Velocity, which are kind of next generation libraries for making really fast, high performance UX. Or Tony Parisi is in the crowd, if you guys haven't talked to him yet. He's working on a new framework called Glam, which is built on top of 3JS, so it makes it easy for a guy like me to just declaratively say, give me a sphere, make it ease and accessibility of declarative syntax, HTML, CSS, combined with the power and the beauty of WebGL. So there's just some really amazing stuff being done. Yeah, and I think we'll probably be back next month or the month after that with an update for you guys. But it's early days. Kick the tires and let us know what you think. Yeah, thank you. Sure, questions? Any questions at all? Yes.
Do you work with the Chrome team together? As you say, as what the Chrome team has also some websites online for the cardboard thing.
Yeah.
Head push. So is it built on the same?
Yeah, it's like a friendly rivalry. Yeah, probably what you'd expect. We're on the same mailing list, and so when Vlad proposed put forward the proposal for an API that would enable devices and input devices, both head-mounted displays and inputs devices, to talk to content, we had one of the leads from the Chrome team there right from the get-go, and the two of them going back and forth, kind of improving each other's work. So you can rest assured that everything that we're proposing here, the Chrome team's on board with as well at a high level, and now we begin to challenge each other. Because we got to one-up each other. Those bastards got a cardboard out there before we did. Those wonderful bastards. Sorry for any Googlers. You're amazing.
We have the first browser API.
Yeah, that's right. We got the first browser API.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some one-upsmanship, some healthy one-upsmanship there. Yes, good question. Anyone else? Cool. Thanks, guys. Oh, yes, in the back.
Okay, I'm not that familiar with JavaScript, but my understanding is, you know, there's WebGL, there's CSS, and there's also all the DOM elements in JavaScript. WebGL is obviously hardware accelerated, but what about the other two, like DOM and CSS? I mean, DOM is used for UI, right? So is that part hardware accelerated as well, or just the WebGL part?
Yeah, if you use CSS transforms, you get hardware acceleration as well, CSS animation.
CSS, you said?
Yeah.
So not DOM?
Yeah, you can animate like DOM elements with CSS, and you get hardware acceleration as well.
Okay, thanks.
So you guys are interacting with the Rift, and you guys are also interacting with the Hydra. Are you worried about bundling software that needs to be compatible with those devices and keeping up with all the issues about that?
So Vlad is not here, but the idea is that we work with the Rift because it's the only device we have. But eventually, yes, we don't want to be device specific, right? Mm-hmm. So, and there's no standard for, orientation data or, head tracking or absolute positioning. I don't know. There's no standards for devices yet, so I don't know. I don't have the answers.
Yeah, I know that Vlad from the get-go, like one of the design principles of the API is to make it device agnostic. So it's a bit tricky. You know, we're trying to build kind of a common base that can function with a head-mounted display that may be 3, 4, 5 years out. And same thing with input devices. Like I'm a UX designer, I'm trying to design a user experience for the web in VR, and I have no idea if we're going to use a gamepad or speech or tap or eye tracking. I think what that requires us to do is to kind of build some flex and some conservatism into the APIs we put forth with UXs, the user experiences we put forth. And so that's what Vlad is and Brandon from the Chrome team are aspiring to do. Create an API that's going to work with whatever comes out a couple of years from now. So it's very agnostic, and I think it's basically just, well, you can take a look at it. I'm not going to try and talk any further because I'll get myself in trouble. But, yes, device agnostic.
Can I actually follow that up and ask, so, I mean, it sounds to me you're going to need some standards. Does that come from you guys? I mean, it would have to be the browsers plus the hardware manufacturers talking to each other. Is there any?
Yeah, standards is kind of. It used to be that if the web was going to move forward, a bunch of people got in a room and deliberated for 4 years and made a standard. And by the time they made the standard, half the time the standard was out of date, or it hadn't proven in the market. Right? There was no kind of Darwinian mechanism there making the standards better. We moved beyond that. There's a new thing called the extensible web movement, which says that what browser vendors like Mozilla and what the Chrome team should do is focus on low-level enablers, like just low-level hardware enablers, and then let really smart devs like the 3JS team, Mr. Du, or Julian Shapiro or Tony to build really cool frameworks and libraries on top of that. Then let those frameworks and libraries kick the shit out of each other in the market for a couple of years. See which one of them, like maybe jQuery, emerges as a winner because we all decide that, you know what, actually, you know, really easy to use selectors, that's really important. Yeah. And then that evolves into the standard. So we don't really, our effort right now is to just turn on some really low-level enablers, be pretty agnostic about what they're used for, and then let web devs actually build cool stuff with it. So, you know, a couple of years, maybe we get to standardization, but I think across the industry, it seems like people are pretty unanimous in feeling that it's probably too early for standards. I think, I'm out of my depth a little bit here, but I think the Valve team was trying to actually put forward a standard for VR headset tracking. It's supposed to work via Steam with any head-mounted display. I'm not too familiar with it, to be honest. But I know there's been some skepticism from the Oculus team about whether or not it might be too early to actually pursue something like that. I know someone in the room, feel free to correct me on that. But yeah, it's a good question. Yes, in the back.
Can standards be improved over time? I mean, don't you feel like without a guide, which is what a standard is to developers usually, you save them a lot of time from having to think about the pros and cons of pursuing 5 or 10 different possible solutions?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, look at jQuery, for example. jQuery is like a de facto standard, right? If you ask, like, I want to make a website, what should I use? I'm new to JavaScript. Like, 9 people out of 10 will tell you it's jQuery. And jQuery will work across every single browser, so it's a de facto standard. And the good thing is you didn't have to wait for the Chrome team and the Internet Explorer team and the Firefox team to give you jQuery. Just a smart guy made it. So we think that's a better model. We think that's more of a modern model, and we think that's how the web innovates faster than the web did, you know, 5 years ago. Cool. Thanks very much, everybody. Oh, I forgot my, damn it. There's that slide.
That was awesome. All right. Mozilla pushing forward virtual reality on the web. Okay, so we're going to go and do demos again, and if there's any food left or cake or whatever, by the way, there's cake because it's birthday time, so, you know. Yeah, please drink the beer, have at it, have fun. We're going to keep this rolling for another hour or so of demos, and then we're going to be done. So thank you guys so much for coming out, and have fun.